Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone who is tuning in right now, and also everyone who's watching All Cards on Deck as a recording. For those who don't know me, I'm Ola. I'm the host of All Cards on Deck, and during these lives, I sit down with different guests who have absolutely different backgrounds, but they all have something in common. They all live their lives on purpose, filled with purpose. And I created all cards on deck, especially for you guys who are asking questions. Who am I? What is my purpose? What am I doing with my life? I really want you to get inspired by real people, real stories. And those people are a few steps ahead. So you can see, hey, this person has achieved whatever they achieved. They live their lives purposefully. If they could do it, I can also do it. And I also really want to ignite that fire within you for you to start taking action and start creating change in your life. Because as we all know, if you do the same thing all the time over and over again, nothing is gonna change. So, today's guest is Joel Beverly, and he's a biologist, entrepreneur, writer, and a community architect. He's also a hillbilly. By the way, I had no idea who is a hillbilly until I got onto his profile. So I had to Google the word. And if you also don't know who is a hillbilly, this is someone who lives in a rural area in the mountains, and this is our dear guest, Joel, who lives in the Appalachian Mountains. And I've also, by the way, Joel, checked the website of the company you've created, and oh my God, the impact you are having and creating with your work is so inspiring. So I'm very excited for this conversation and super happy to have you here. So welcome to All Cards on Deck.
Thank you. Yes, it's lovely to be here. It's nice to take a break from cutting grass and hanging out to be here in this digital realm for a little bit. So thank you.
Yeah, and I love your background, as I mentioned before. And you mentioned you're in the farm, right? Is it the house that you're redoing, or it's something else?
No, it is. Yeah, we're restoring, me and my partner, a 260 nearly year old cabin here on the property. So it's about this road behind me. It's about maybe a third of a mile down this road is where the cabin's at. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
And
this is
I
so
should
beautiful.
say, Ola, a hillbilly. You know that you kind of gave the traditional term. My definition of a
Okay.
hillbilly is exactly what you said, but also they operate in kind of radical freedom, right? They know how to take care of themselves, and uh, and they did a lot of internal work to be able to operate very smoothly in this reality. So that's what a hillbilly is. Yeah.
I love the add-on because it also flows very smoothly into the question. The first question that I ask everyone on all cards on deck is, who are you? So we can dive into that.
Okay. Yeah. Who am I? Wow. Yeah, that's a big question, right? Uh, Well, you described it pretty well. I mean, if you're going to put descriptors on me, it would be, I'm a hillbilly. I'm a biologist. I've studied bats, for 25 years. Founded an environmental company that does endangered species surveys. Uh, Grew up very poor, and that kind of trained me in a very specific way early in my life. Uh, and so when I started a business and became successful, that was an interesting twist. Uh, yeah, but at this point, I'm just, I was, I know the question is coming up about purpose, and I've moved through a lot of purposes in my life, and in this moment, I'm just kind of in a beautiful spot of no purpose, and
Wow.
things just naturally emerge for me. So it's It's so I was interested in this conversation just because of this. I've thought about purpose and what is my purpose, and yeah, so that's kind of who I am,
Mm-hmm. Okay,
briefly.
beautiful. Yeah. So in regards to purpose, this is awesome and very unusual to find a person who right now has no purpose, and at the same time, how I perceive you is still feeling fulfilled, still uh, finding joy in what you do. And I'm wondering, you've also mentioned that your purpose was shifting throughout your life. Could you tell us your story from the very beginning, in regards to your purpose and how it was shifting from start to where you are right now?
Yeah, in some ways, I would say my purpose, whenever I've had purposes, it's kind of been given to me, right? It's from an outside source, society. Again, growing up very poor from my first 18 years of life, well, first 25 years really, um, and seeing other people who had things and that we didn't, right? Like we didn't have running water, for instance, and we didn't have indoor plumbing and things like that. But then I saw other people who did have this, right? So that was an interesting training for a young kid, right? It's just like, okay, that's what. Why is that? Uh, and also, I was raised fundamental Christian, right? So in that reality, you could say my purpose was to get to heaven, maybe, right, or to not go to hell. That was my purpose,
Mm,
and so you see that we're kind of given all these purposes, right? And then when I somehow I found my way to college, and then I became a biologist, not by thinking too much about it, but it just kind of happened. Uh, so then my purpose became to be a biologist, right? Uh, and when I was 28, I started a business, right? So my purpose shifted again, right? My purpose was to make this business last, right? To succeed, right? To be a vehicle for something, right? But again, this was all
mm-hmm,
given to me, right? This my poverty that I'd existed in, and then starting a business in a capitalist reality. It all informed my purpose. So that's kind of what I was thinking of, right? As I was preparing for this, I was like, it's interesting. All my purposes have been really from the outside. Um, and at some point, I'd had enough of purpose. And what I mean by that is I kind of had an extreme burnout, breakdown experience. Uh,
mm,
and at that point, purpose goes out the door, right? At that point, it's just a survival kind of thing. And for the last 13 years, I've been kind of whittling away at purpose, right? I'm trying to get rid of it, get off of me purpose, uh, because I just want to be. Uh,
mm,
and I just want to experience without that influence outside of me telling me that I should have a purpose. And what is your purpose, Joel? Uh,
mm-hmm,
I'm in a very beautiful space now to where I don't have a purpose, but that doesn't mean I'm lazy or not productive in some way. But it just means that I kind of just trust the universe. And as things are emerging, every morning I get up, something emerges, and it's just, and I kind of have fun playing with that, you know?
mm.
So yeah, so it's just a different perspective, right? Yeah. So I don't really have a purpose.
I
So,
love it. It is a
yeah.
very different perspective, and that's why I love it even more. Coming back to your story when you first opened your business, I'm wondering, how did that appear in your life? Was it the idea and the desire to get away from poverty and become rich, not to live the way you lived, or something else was driving you? And what was that business, by the way?
Yeah, yeah. No, I was just working at a company and I wasn't happy. It just, at that time was a very messy company. And I was like, wow, I can do this, right? I can do what this is. And what this is environmental consulting, endangered species surveys, specifically
Mm-hmm.
endangered bat surveys. But my whole plan was when I started the business was to work for 3 months because you can make a little money in 3 months because it's a very seasonal thing. And then I was going to go to Mexico for 9 months out of the year and kind of just hang out, right, and just kind of be. Uh, but the business got it became too successful. It was so in the way that I couldn't take off 9 months, right? Like you want to drink of water at the water fountain, and then you turn it on, and it's a fire hydrant, right? It was just a little more
Mm.
than I was expecting. Uh,
Wow.
so yeah, so it wasn't like I want to make a business and I want to make a lot of money. I wasn't happy where I was at, and I saw an angle to do something outside of that system. And I said, I'm just going to do this. And it wasn't even until later that I said, oh, I guess I should start a company, right? This is going to be something different, and I should have a name. So yeah, so it was like
Mm-hmm.
that. It wasn't any big visions. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's for me. I've found that this life just kind of unfolds in like little steps, and you just
Mm-hmm.
take those little steps, and then at some point it looks like a really big thing that you did, but really it's just kind of small steps.
Mm-hmm. I really like the analogy of walking with a torch, like you just see that what is
Oh
lit
yeah,
by the torch, and then you walk further and then you see a bit more, and then you walk further and you see a bit more. I love this
yeah.
analogy.
No, I love that
Uh,
too. That's very cool. I hadn't heard that.
yeah. And this is the business that you are running right now, right? Because you also mentioned it's linked to bats and survey. Is it the same business that you opened when you were 25?
28. So it was I've had the business now for 23 years. But I do very little there now. I'm just not interested in it. I again that again wanting a little drink of water and then having the fire hydrant for 12 years, right? Uh and that wasn't the only thing, right? A few years into that, again it was successful, and me and my wife at the time opened a bar, restaurant, live music venue in the little tiny town we live in. So the fire hydrant pressure just went up some with that. Um, so yeah, so I've owned the environmental company for 23 years, but I do very little. There's
Mm-hmm.
another good buddy is the president of the company now, and he's really doing everything to make it work. And I'm just
Mm-hmm.
kind of a trusted advisor on the side, you know.
I see.
Yeah.
You mentioned burnout, right? Was it because of that fire hydrant, like really pushing it? It was because of that, or something else was there that triggered this burnout?
No, no, that was it. It was, I mean, it was just my lifestyle, and the fire hydrant was a lot of things, but I think many of us get on trains and we think it's going somewhere or it's going to be a little thing. And then all of a sudden it's speeding, right? And it's really hard to get off of this train, right? But it's kind of frantic and it's crazy and it's experience. And then sometimes the only way to get off is for it to crash. And that was my experience. And the too much was, yeah, running an environmental consulting firm as a poor hillbilly who'd never been trained on business at all, right? And so I was just figuring it all out. I was doing everything initially, and it was just way too much. And then when that was done, I would go to the bar and drink a lot of whiskey with friends, and have musicians coming in from all over the world and partying with them in the hot tub till daylight, and then getting up and starting the environmental job again. So that was my reality for a very long time, and it was, I wouldn't give it away for anything. It was the most fabulous time. We were stars. It was so fun, and the community was a star. It was a big love fest for about 10 years. Uh,
That's so.
yeah, but at some point it was just too much, and I was burning it at both ends, and at some point I had nothing left in the tank, and I was just and it was at that moment, Ola, that my dad died, my mom died 4 months later, me and my wife
Mm,
separated. So all this stuff happened. So it was like the universe was forcing a total reset in some way, right? It's like I'd pushed it too far. I was out of rhythm. I'd had too much purpose. And
mm,
the universe was correcting that in some ways by forcing a reset. And that reset for me was a friend at this moment gave me a book on meditation, and I read the book within like 2 days, and I just saw the world in a different way immediately, and it created a little ease in me. And once I tasted that bliss, that ease, that naturalness of just being for the last 13 years, that's what I've been nurturing is that space. So
mm. What was the book? What is the name and author?
it's John Kabat-Zinn, who's kind of one of the old school meditation guys. And the book
Mm-hmm.
was is called Full Catastrophe Living, and it's a book. It's a clinical setting evaluation of meditation and using meditation to reduce stress. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and at that moment, I was just so hyper, stressed. Right, I was just everything. Right, had been coming for so long that my senses were just overwhelmed. So it
Mm-hmm.
was again the last 13 years I've been stepping back from that space, and
Mm.
learning to operate with no purpose in some way.
When did you realize, like, I cannot do this anymore? When the friend gave you a book, or there was another moment when you're like, I'm
Oh,
done.
yeah, it was all in that area, right? It was uh, just again, it was one punch after another, right? Your dad dying, your mom dying, and so all these things that I had kind of were the structure of my reality, right? That's what I kind of hung my hat on. Your mom, your parents, right? Your job, right? Your partner, your wife, right? All these things, the structure of my reality all fell away. So I was kind of left with nothing in that sense, right? And in that nothingness was the low spot, and that's where I started to rebuild's not the right word, but declutter in some way, right? Instead of adding, rebuilding, I started taking things away. So,
What was the first thing that you took away when you were decluttering?
well, everything, the full catastrophe living it's like an 8 week course that they teach it all around the world. Uh, within 2 weeks, I left Eastern Kentucky and moved to Washington, D.C., rented a basement apartment because they were doing this class. There was one starting. I was thinking that the other option was South Africa. I was ready to go to South Africa. So I just dropped everything, and I went to DC. And when I got there, I realized that the class was only once a week. So it
Mm,
wasn't like a hardcore. You're doing this for 8 hours. No, it's like a 3 hour class once a week. But the
mm-hmm.
rest of the time, I just sat in the basement of this apartment and just meditated.
Wow.
And then I would come out, and then I would just walk around DC in a meditative space and just experiencing the city, right? So again, it was a hard reset. I just left. I had to quit. I had to leave, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I did. So
What was the biggest shift and insight that you've got during that course?
That we're not our thoughts, right? And learning to separate this constant horrific thought process that we can have, right, from all that we have to do and all the ugly things we've done in life and all this just flowing almost like that fire hydrant all the time. And in this class you come to understand that you're not, that is not who you are. You're something beyond that. And just in that knowing and that separating that voice in your head and that knowing, something shifts. Like there's a small shift that you experience. And again, once you experience that, you kind of don't need anything else, right? And that's kind of the only thing you want. Well, that was me anyway. You know, I tasted it and I'm like, wow, this is the opposite of the fire hydrant, right? This is kind of peaceful and blissful, and I tasted it just enough, and that's the only thing I wanted. And
Mm,
13 years later, it's really kind of the only thing I want still, right? So it's just kind of vibrating in that energy, and as that vibration is happening, things just start emerging, right? It's just uh, visions and ideas and beauty and things just start flowing, you know. Uh, and there's no purpose needed, no purpose required.
mm. When you're attuned to the universe.
Yes.
What did you do after the course? Like you got that experience, you got the knowledge that I'm not my thoughts, I'm something beyond. What did you do after?
Oh, it's hard to, again, it's that fast moving train, right? I was on a fast moving train. Something had happened at high speed on that train to me. Something hit me, right? So my reality shifted. But I was still on a fast moving train in some way, right? And that fast moving train was my environmental company, my bar, restaurant, the whole life that I had spent 40 years creating. That was the fast moving train, right? So, uh, I left, and but after that 2 months, I came back, right? I came back, and that reality was still there, right? The people still knew me as the Joel before this hard reset had happened, right? But I had tasted something different, and I was a different person at that point. Uh,
Mm,
so for me, I became a meditation teacher, a trained meditation teacher. I started going to meditation retreats. I would go and walk around the lake there near my town for hours in a meditative space, right? Just noticing my thoughts and then letting them go, right? And then just noticing the beauty around me. So it was, for a number of years, and it didn't happen quickly, right? Because I still had a company that at that point I was trying to figure out. And I had a bar that still required a lot of attention in some ways, uh,
mhm,
and old friends, right? And so in some ways you began acclimating and you begin slowly creating. uh, You see, you've tasted it, but again, I love your analogy of your light, your torch, and you start seeing it all around you a little better, and you start walking in a direction, and you don't know where you're going, but you just know that you've experienced something that you want more of, and it's kind of the opposite of the agitation that I had been experiencing, and the agitation that most people looked at me and thought I was the most successful dude they knew, right? I had many businesses. I was traveling around the world. But I was a mess. I was a complete mess. So yeah, yeah.
What helped you go your way and not look at other people's opinions, not get dragged into like, hey, Joel, you are so successful. What on earth are you doing? Get back to business, make money. Like,
Yeah.
what helped you stay on track, your track?
It, yeah, yeah. It just wasn't an option, right? And when you go far enough, right, and you have that hard reset in the way that I did, there was no option. Somebody could say that, and it meant nothing to me, right? The ego had been obliterated in some way, right? So it could care really, it cared very little about what other people thought, during this moment. And again, so that was part of it. And I think that's good, right? Because we often think way too much about what people out there think. Um,
100%.
and letting that go was a powerful thing. So so yeah, so it's but again, it's like once you've tasted it, nothing will get in your way, right? Again, this is just from my experience. Once I tasted this after 39, 40 years of, it's kind of like going back to when you're 3 or 4, that peacefulness you had when you were like 3 or 4 years old, and when you're kind of whole, and life is just kind of interesting, right? Everything's new and it's kind of fun. Uh, but then life starts happening, right? Poverty and shame and capitalism and communism, right? And all these belief systems are placed on top of you, right? Christianity and all this stuff. And you quickly, and at some point, you lose yourself. You lose connection to that whole 3, 4 year old consciousness. You kind of lose touch with that. The hard reset, I tasted that again, and I was like, wow. I didn't even think this. I just felt it. Right. It was like that. That feels right. That feels really right. What I've been doing doesn't feel right. I know it looks right by what society is saying, but it doesn't feel right. So at that point, you start. You have to be truthful, and that's the other thing too. At some point, you just got to be truthful to yourself and understand that just because other people are saying something doesn't mean it's true, doesn't mean it's right for you. So you got to find
Mm,
your own 3 year old, your own 4 year old, that's that beauty before you thought you had to do something. And in that space, yeah, something else will emerge for you, maybe. That might be more interesting.
mhm, mhm. And you've also mentioned that you were teaching meditation, right? After that, what happened?
After I was teaching meditation, well,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a trained meditation teacher, and if you hang out
Mm-hmm.
with me, I will often put you in a meditative space, by just being with you, right? Just energetically
Mm-hmm.
being here, totally with you, will bring a space that is that together with two people, right? And it's a very beautiful thing. So I do that quite often, but I don't call it being a meditation teacher, right? I am a trained meditation teacher, but I've never charged anyone. I've never actually described it as what I do as a meditation teacher. But often when
Mm-hmm.
I'm with someone, I am teaching them to meditate, to just be, but I don't put it in the
Mm-hmm.
language of what traditional meditation would be. Um, but yeah, so I just kept fine tuning though. After becoming a meditation teacher, I was just interested. I'm my office now is just a library of philosophical, spiritual texts. Yeah, I became very interested in this reality. Right, I was no
Mm-hmm.
longer just blindly going in a direction because of what society had told me, which is what I did for 40 years. but instead I was interested in a different way, this different way that felt more at ease for me, that felt more natural.
Mm-hmm.
So I just,
Mm-hmm.
again, every moment, at that point in my life was really noticing that my thoughts were there, right? And it's not always a happy thing. And noticing that and
Mm-hmm.
letting it go, and then coming back to this beautiful little spot here with trees, right? And this beautiful person across from me on my screen. So that's the beauty of it, you know.
Yeah, all about coming back to the here and now and coming back to yourself. What are the fun projects that light your heart right now?
Oh, well, there's one for sure. As I said, I no longer own the bar. The environmental company is, it's running itself, and with one key person really. My passion now is a project that's called the Rebel Company, and we're it's coming together as we speak. There's
Mm-hmm.
12 founders who have come together, and we're just in this space of emerging. Um, and the cool thing is these are people that I really vibrate with in a nice way. They have also been through some of these interesting things in life, and they have their own very natural way of being. Um, so this Rebel Company is coming together, and our only product that we look to create at this company is community. So
Mm-hmm.
and and a lot of people may say, well, that doesn't sound very interesting, but if you in the capitalist way, right? You're not going to really do anything just by doing that. But that's very short sighted, right? Because if you can bring together a very thoughtful, open hearted community and people who just want to be together because they're vibrating in this beautiful way and not because they're trying to achieve something or gain something, but they're just kind of enjoying the resonance of this community, we can create something that could shift reality, that could shift the world. This could be a company, and we see this as being a style of company, a rebel style company, and we have a very specific vision of what this type of company will look like. And we're going to be the first one to try this, to go through this process together. So,
Mm-hmm.
you've had other people on the show who are part of this also, and
Yes.
it's very exciting for all of us. Yeah, we're messaging each other all the time, just like little kids, excited about it.
Mm. I feel like right now, the future, the new age, the new earth, the future of our world is in the hands of communities, not being a selfish, egoistic uh, human, but rather gathering like-minded people and not corporations, not focused on money making, but rather making an impact from the heart and from uplifting each other. So what you're saying definitely resonates, and I feel like more and more communities of such are coming up in one way or another, be it some communities like retreats or self-sustainable villages where people are creating eco spaces and they live together separately, completely separate from the society, from the norms.
Yeah,
So your project is super something very exciting.
yeah, we're kind of tired of it, aren't we? The old way, the old world. It's I feel that almost as a society, we're at that spot that where I was at 13 years ago, to where I just had a hard reset. I
Mhm.
just, it was forced upon me. There was no other way. It just had to happen. And it almost feels like society is there, right? It almost seems that we're there on a global level at this breaking spot, this threshold, and something new is on the other side, and we don't know exactly what that is, but it's emerging. We can feel it happening, right? Uh, what a cool and exciting time to be alive, right? To get to
I
experience
agree.
this shift that we just kind of naturally feel is happening, you know?
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like more and more people are waking up to living their lives following their heart. And I also want to mention that sometimes to build something new and beautiful, we need to remove, destroy, disrupt the old. And it might feel painful, but eventually the final destination is a very, very beautiful place to be in.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I think about that often, and I wonder if it has to be painful, you know? It's like, because it just seems like the old systems are just crumbling, right? And
Mm,
it's like, so there's really nothing for us to do, right? But just to observe it and just to, like, and be interested in it. You know, definitely don't be fearful, you know, be
yeah,
interested in it. Um, and, uh, and to start creating, you know, that's kind of what we see the Rebel Company as, is starting to create a new story, you know, something that we're not trying to tear down anything, right? Because that's anger and angst, and that's not the energy that we're wanting to resonate in, right? We're wanting to kind of resonate in a nice energy. So with that, you can just start creating community, right? Like what we're doing right now, right? We're connected, Ola, now, right?
hmm,
Moving forward, we're going to be working together in some ways, right? We're connected. And the world is coming together in this way now, right? So I don't think there's really much for us to do. It's quite easy, you know, it's just naturally happening. So in some ways, you just got to get out of the way, right? Uh,
yeah,
s-
I get that.
s- yeah.
I remember I went on an experiment because at some point I was like, I don't want to grow and learn from painful experiences and challenges. I was fed up, when I went into the field of self-development and I see there's pain and challenges and that we have to grow and learn from them. And I'm like, I choose to grow and learn from love. And I will prove to the whole world
Uh,
that it is possible to grow only from love and from
uh,
beautiful experiences. Honestly, that experiment failed. Right now, I'm at this spot. I'm at this spot. I'm at the spot where I feel like, in the here and now at least, pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. Still, things in life are happening that are not under our control, some painful situations, but how we perceive it is what we choose
yeah.
and what we can choose. And even though I was like, no, I will only grow from love. Still, life was like, hey, slap, you're not going here, you're going here. And I'm like, but I want to do this. And I'm
But
like,
I, but I would say that you're still doing it from love. Yeah, yeah, like
there,
you're experiencing pain, and but you're not suffering, right? As you said, right? But you're not suffering. So
not
so in
always. I
some
still
ways,
sometimes go into the old suffering
uh, it's
loops,
yeah,
but I do my best to be aware when I get into these things and just to be an observer, choose to see these situations in a different way.
yes, that's it, right? Just you keep coming back. You catch yourself caught in thought of pain, and you notice, and you wake up, and you're like, oh shit, you know, I was doing it again, right? I was tormenting myself, you know, and then you just kind of come back to the freshness of this world around you, and that's the practice, right? So, and and in some ways too, again, thinking about the world as it is now, right? And the idea that there are some painful things out there, right? And I think a lot of these are on purpose, to kind of create dissonance, in this reality. Um, but in some ways, like you said, don't you can feel the pain, but don't suffer, and and instead lend your energy to this growing beauty that is happening, right? Also at the same time. Um, so feel the pain, and but don't suffer yourself, and then stay in this space of beauty that you naturally are. So
What helps you to trust and surrender to life and know that, from that state of being, things will appear? What helps you not to fall into the controlling part? Because also from my experience, uh, this is my second year of experimenting with surrendering to life. And it's a wonderful experience when I do get into that flow and I trust. And again, sometimes life happens and I find myself out of that surrender mode, trying to control things that I cannot control. So I'm wondering what helps you to be in that constant surrender and trust
yeah, well, I'm right there
in
with you.
life.
It's tough on me too. It's like if you ask my
Mm,
partner, she'll tell you that I'm often wanting something, right? I'm often moving, and in some ways she'll say, "Why don't you just relax?" Right? So in some ways, I'm not giving up, right? I still have that thing that's pulling me in some way. Um, but I mean, as far as it's just understanding, right? Again, you have to experience it. You can't read this in a book. You can read it in a book and taste it, right? Which I did, right? A book can kind of is a pointing finger to something deeper, right? And when you see that, something may click, and that's it, and that's enough, because then you'll want more of it, and you start doing it. So that's what keeps me surrendering is that I've been on a path for 13 years. I've read enough spiritual texts to kind of have an idea of what this is all about. I did a number of plant medicines. I did ayahuasca ceremonies in the jungle of Peru and in the Andes of Ecuador. And I've had experiences that have trained me in a different way than I was trained by society for 40 years. So for me, I've had enough experience now to where I kind of feel, I'm this is just here to enjoy. Yeah, there is no pressure, right? This is for us to kind of revel in. And I feel that, and I'm experiencing that. So
mm,
I don't have to be convinced, right? It's easy for me to just have non-attachment, to just let things go and just kind of
mm.
have a little party with my dear friends, who are coming together and creating community.
And the pressure that is there is something that we are creating ourselves. And if we created it ourselves, we can uncreate it ourselves too.
Exactly. It's like the peels of the onion, right? Just those trainings and those tensions that we have is you just keep pulling them back one at a time. No pressure, you don't have to do it so quickly, but you just start pulling those back one after another. And
Hmm.
at some point you'll get to an interesting spot.
What about the books that you've wrote? What inspired you to write your first book? What was the impulse also that led you to create your second book?
Well, it definitely wasn't because I wanted to be an author. That similar to I didn't start a business to become rich. I I just in this space that we're describing, right, of this beautiful, energetic space. Uh, I've had a number of times to where I've had just very beautiful downloads. I was in Mexico. I was actually there for a back conference, and Fern, my partner, came with me. And after the conference, we stayed for an extra week. And at some point, she got food poisoning and was just in bed sick. And I was just out on a balcony looking at the Pacific Ocean, and these ideas just started coming to me. Some things that I'd been pondering on for a while, but it started coming together in such a way that it made total sense. So I grabbed my notebook and I just started writing. And probably an hour, hour and a half later, the book was written, right? The vision was there, you know.
Wow.
So yeah, so then it was just figuring out how to write a book, right? It's like, okay, now I'm going to write a book, right? Because this is such a beautiful vision, and you want to get it out there. And that was my first book, you know. And then the second book, which is the one that just came out, in the absence of belief, right? So the title probably makes more sense now that you're talking with me, right? It's just our belief systems get in the way and create a lot of entanglements for us. Uh, and it's only by realizing this and starting to kind of shed some of these beliefs that you kind of become a little more free. Uh,
Mm,
and so that's a space I've been in for a while. But we were going on a trip, like a 3-month trip, me and Fern, and we started out in Eastern Kentucky, and we drove to a train station in West Virginia, and we took the train to New York City, and we're to take a boat to Europe, right? And then we were going to go all across Europe and then to Egypt. So this was a
wow.
vision that we had, right? And we did that. And my idea was like, I'm going to have fun. This is one of my creative ideas. It's like I'm going to write 1,000 words a day, and and I don't know where this is going, but something will come from this, and it'll be a book. Um, and that's kind of how that one happened, right? So it was just kind of a fun exercise, and what it ended up being for me was it was something that I needed to do because it was a reanalyzing in a different way by writing about it of a lot of my traumas and a lot of my trainings and beliefs that had been placed on me by society my whole life, right? And
Mm,
and trying to tease out like when I lost it, right? When did I lose that beauty and what was placed over it and how did that happen? And then what had to occur for me to see the light again, kind of thing. So this book is one, it's a travel log, it's each of the chapters is the place where I was writing from. So there's a Paris chapter, there's a London
wow.
chapter, a Rome chapter, a Cairo chapter. So it's kind of a travel log in that way. But then also, the subtitle of the book is a memoir and manifesto from the heart of Appalachia. And so the memoir part
Mm,
is me kind of teasing apart, how did this happen? This long, strange trip that I've been on, where did I lose myself and how did this all happen? So I had to go back and look at some of my younger stuff. And that's where the memoir part comes in. And the manifesto is, a lot of people think that the manifesto is the things that I propose for Appalachia and the ways that we can create a better world here. Where I live in Eastern Kentucky is the second poorest congressional district in America, right? It's very, very hard hit area here. Um, and, but trying to vision ways to get better. But the real manifesto of the book is this personal freedom that I'm talking to you about, right? This
mm,
moving beyond purpose, this moving into this space of emergence and that space of freedom. That's the manifesto, right? So in some ways, it's like a meditation, right? As I said, when I sit with people, I meditate with them, but they don't know it, right? But it's like we kind of get into a space of beingness that's quite beautiful. So the manifesto part is the book, when you read the book, the idea is that you'll potentially experience that space of freedom. And
Mm.
in experiencing that, you might want more of it afterward. And that's the manifesto, right? Is to create a new world in that way, a total shift.
Where can we find your book?
My website is the easiest way. It's Joel, and I love pronouncing it that way. Thank you for here in Kentucky we say Joel, uh, but Joel because it lets you see how it's spelled, right? Joel, and
Yes,
then
but you're pronouncing it Joel.
Joel. Yeah, that's how you do it here. Yeah, Joel. All together, right? We don't like separating it
Yeah,
out
yeah.
into two things, just one.
Making it even shorter.
But joelbeverly.com is the easy way. And Beverly's like the hills. And if you go there, you can see a number of ways to buy the book, Amazon but I recommend, to get it from your bookstore, your local bookstore, independent bookstore if you
Mm.
can, because they can
Like the
order it.
proper version.
it
Mm.
yeah, yeah, it's a hard book, a hardback book. It's a beautiful book. And, but get it from your local spot. That way they get just a little bit of money out of it. So instead of
Beautiful.
Amazon, right? Amazon's got their piece. Let's give a little piece to some other people.
Yeah. That's gonna be only in the US for those who are listening or watching from the US, or it's actually sold worldwide.
Worldwide. Yeah. One of,
This is
a few of
cool.
our leaders of this rebel company are in Greece. She just showed me her picture the other day that she received her book. One of the other leaders is in Mexico. He just sent me a picture the other
Ah,
day so yeah, no, you can get it globally.
nice. I love it. Beautiful. What are the tips that you can give to those people who are in search of their purpose?
Uh, yeah. Before you begin your search for your purpose, take a little time to let everything go. Again, I experienced a hard reset, but you can start working on this through meditation, through being interested in who you are. Um, again, the Temple of Delphi in Greece, right? Thousands of years ago. What was the one thing they told us to do when you entered the temple? Know thyself, right? So most people are trying to find purpose before they know who they are. So they've kind of got it backwards. So I would recommend to get to know yourself first. And it could take a little while, but it's the most important thing you can do because after that, you'll see that you don't need a purpose and things will just naturally start happening for you in quite a beautiful way. So, just slow down, pause, quit that cubicle job if you have to, and move to Vietnam for 6 months.
Mm.
Create a shift in your reality and focus on that for as long as it takes. You'll figure it out. Nobody's going to die here, right? This is all just kind of a fun game. Nobody's going to die here. So if you quit your crappy job that you don't even like anyway, and you're trying to make it make sense, just quit it. Go do something else, and you'll figure it out. You'll just naturally figure it out. And in that time, try to figure out who you are. And then at some point, something will happen for you.
I feel like so many people need to hear this now. So many people need to hear this now.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's freedom.
Yeah. Also, before we dive into the cards, uh, question about your trip to Egypt. How was that? Did you
It
go to
was,
the pyramid? What was the energy there? Maybe some downloads also. Because I know it's a special place, very special energetically.
yeah, yeah. I would say for the book, right? the Cairo and Luxor chapters are the climax of the story, are the climax of the book. Because
Mm,
some things happened there. It was mystical, magical reality for 10 days in Egypt. And a big part of that was we had a leader there, a dear friend who actually owns a hotel in Cairo and one in Luxor, and she's an Egyptologist, and she's a teacher for people all over the world. The Japanese just love her. She has so many Japanese students, and they just she'll I sat in one of her talks, why her classes, when I was there in Luxor with her. She asked if I'd like to join, and I was like, yeah, I'd love to. And she would sit there and she would just do it was like she was creating antennas, and at the same time she would be talking to a singular student on the phone and telling them kind of what they needed to do. And doing this for like an hour and a half, me just being there in this space with her, uh, it took me to another realm. You know, she's really a very powerful person. So that was who was leading us this whole time, right? So she was taking us to temples and telling us what this meant, and everything. We went to the top of the pyramids, and we she knows everybody. She said, "Hold everybody up," and we got to meditate in the tomb that's in the top of the Great Pyramid, right? To just be there. Yeah, it was incredible, you know. And we would go into Nefertiti's tomb, and we did the same thing. We meditated there for 30 minutes, right? We're in the darkness, you know, underground here. Um, so it was amazing, and I don't know if I want to give this away, but I will. You know, in this most amazingness, the last night that we were in Egypt, uh, we went to bed, and I experienced something that I would describe as a void, nothingness. Uh, I was talking to a person recently, and she called it hell, uh, because it's extreme. It's the most fear-inducing space that I've ever been in. Um,
wow.
and the thing is, this was my third time of experiencing this space. And always when I'm in this space, I was given the option to return to this reality or to choose oblivion, to choose nothingness, to just release everything. Each of these times I'm just crying, right? It's so emotional. It's so fear inducing. And the first two times, which is probably the year or two previous to this, I ran. I take me back to this reality. I've got to be to put my feet on the ground and know that this reality is real. I had to do it. It happened in the last night in Luxor and at my friend's hotel, which is probably 50 feet from the um, the temple that they taught the pharaohs to enter the afterlife. So
Mm,
imagine these rituals for thousands of years taught in this temple and this energy. And
yeah.
I experienced this there. And in this experience again, it was just the most fear inducing. And if you do ayahuasca, you do it a number of times. It's some i- it's fear inducing. It can be very fear inducing. Uh, but
Mm,
it was nothing like this. This was total oblivion. And but I was like, this is why I've come here. I've come here to die. And in that
wow.
moment, I chose nothingness. I chose, and there was nothingness. And I woke up the next morning and I was still alive.
Wow.
That was,
Wow. I feel like after these experiences, is there is your desire to live even more? Is it enhanced or it's vice versa? It's like, okay, whatever. This life is whatever. The other side is what is true.
It's no, this life is, I mean, it's quite lovely, really, you know. It's a lot of the things that we place on top of it that cause pain for us. So, you know, and I'll tell the rest of that story there. You know, so I went out the next morning. I woke up after this experience, and I went out and I was sitting there looking at that temple, and I was just had my notebook and I was just writing. And Fern came out. She was still had been sleeping, and I'd left her there. And she came out and she just looked at me and she said, I was like, "How are you, sweetie?" And she's like, "I don't know." I was like, "Just the weirdest experience last night." And I was like, "Oh no." I was like, what happened?" She's like, "I just felt like I was dying."
Wow.
So it wasn't just me, right? You know? So so I say this to, and when you do ayahuasca, there's worlds that you experience there that it's not just you. People will come back and you'll talk about these different worlds, that these different realms that are right here with us right now, but we just don't see it, you know?
Mm,
And it's, so I think the big thing is for people to know is it's like it's a magical world. It's a creative world, and it's meant to be experienced, right? Uh, and to have fun. And
mm,
so that's what I do now. I don't do anything that's not fun. You know, I cut grass for like 2 hours out here, and I love it. It's so fun. You know, it's like it's I'll go have a cigar after this, and I can't wait. It's just want to be. It's just everything, you know. But it's like walking down the hill just and looking at trees. It's just that what a magical reality we live in, right? But society has taught us something, and we think
mm.
it's the most important thing, but it turns out it's not. Potentially, right? That's just for me, you know. It's for each of us, we're kind of on our own train that's kind of speeding, and
Mm,
and we got to figure it out ourselves, you know. Um, but that's again, that's why I say to just my recommendation would be, and this is a very long explanation, but to take a pause, to be quiet for a little bit, and be interested in what's inside of you rather than what they are telling you out there. All right, what beliefs they're placing on you, what they're telling you is true. Just let all that go and kind of
mm.
be interested in yourself for a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I agree to everything that you're saying in regards to pausing, going within. And I feel like everyone is in such a race right now, running, that everyone forgets to have fun along the way. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can feel and see that like one of your values is having fun, which is also very much aligned with one of my values, like to have fun with everything that I do. That's why there is a little game at the end of this live.
I'm excited. This is cool. Yeah, let's do this.
Yeah. So there are random questions on these cards, personal questions. Let's see what comes up today. Are you a coffee or a tea person? Sweetened or unsweetened?
Mm, yeah, no, this is a very easy one. I'm so clear on this. Uh, even going to like many of the cultures in the world who just treasure tea, right? Uh, Egypt being one of them, right? You can't go anywhere and they not offer you a tea. It's really really nice. But for me, it's just I just love coffee. You know, it's just my ritual of getting up in the morning and kind of getting in a meditative space on my chair outside and just seeing the world, and then slowly sipping on a coffee as I'm there experiencing that. That's pretty blissful. So, and no sugar. Sometimes I go back and forth between black and just a touch of cream. And but yeah, no, definitely coffee. What about you?
Mm, coffee. I was off coffee for a while. I didn't drink coffee for like, uh, I think a year and a half because of some health matters. And then I traveled to Italy, and I'm like, I'm in Italy. I cannot not have a cup of coffee. So I had a cup of coffee, and then it all began once again. Now I'm a huge coffee fan. I drink coffee every day. I also have my little ritual. I go to a little cafe downstairs and I get my little cappuccino and sit outside. They have these benches and I just people watch and I have my
Ah,
coffee.
that sounds amazing. Yeah. No, no. What's the city
Yeah.
that you're at there in Belarus?
Minsk, the capital.
Minsk. Okay, the capital. Okay, wow. So it's a vibrant spot that you're probably at and watching people and just that's amazing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
cool.
I mean, as much as it can be for us, because Belarus is still quite a the energy of my country is very slow. I lived in Dubai for many, many years, and the energy in Dubai is insane. You go there and you're like, there's a wave of things, and so much is happening. Here, it's so much slower, the pace. Even though it's the capital, things are so much
Yeah,
slower here.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I guess kind of everything's slower than Dubai, right? It's pretty out there right now, and on purpose, which is kind of cool to experience. But yeah, I don't think I'd want to be there all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, second question. What's your mother's name and the most beautiful thing about her? Wow.
Oh man, my mom's name was Alice Jean Sumner. And this brings up a beautiful story too that I also tell this in the book, right? So Alice Jean Sumner was her name growing up, and so we were Sumners, right? And my dad was a Beverly, so she was from the time that I remember, she was Alice Jean Beverly, right? And that's what everyone knew her as. But as I was half a Sumner, right? So it was a very big thing. I remember when I was at college, I became interested in our bloodlines. The Beverleys and the Sumners, and there was a Sumner that supposedly, maybe in the 15 or 1600s, tried to blow up the King of England. And I was like, wow, man! So we've got some revolutionary blood here. Wow, this is kind of interesting.
Rebels
Uh,
out there, huh?
Right, right. So you build up this story, right, in your head, right? And that was my reality. And my mom passed away maybe 12 years ago. Uh and my mom she was fire. My dad was a bohemian. My mom was fire, right? And so I kind of get my calmness from my dad and my drive from my mom. It feels. But getting back to the story there, and she's so beautiful in so many ways. Um, but after my mom passed away, I was hanging out with my uncle, and he let me know that mommy's daddy, Lawrence Sumner, wasn't a Sumner at all. He was born a McIntyre, but was adopted by this family and took their name. So this whole reality and this pride of being a Sumner that I had lived my life as was a lie. Isn't that interesting? I'm a McIntyre. I need to look those guys up. I don't know much about them. But uh,
Mm.
but
It's
that's all
once
to
again,
say.
we're
Oh yeah, go ahead.
yeah. Coming
Go
back
ahead,
to
Ola.
your book, The Absence of Belief, you had that big belief, big story in your head, and then boom, there's absence of that, and like who you are without that belief.
Yeah. So it teaches you, like, if you pay attention, there's so many of those moments in life, right, to where something that you knew was true. I was a Sumner, right? You can't take that from me. But in the end, it's not true. And if you start really paying attention, you'll notice that there's so many things in our life, that are just not reality, that we accept as
Yeah, that we think this is true, and this is like, let's say, even scientifically proven truth. Today it is, after tomorrow something else comes up and it's no longer scientifically proven because they proved
exactly.
something else scientifically, which is correct.
Yes, I'm a scientist as well, and I know science is also a very political thing. So, yeah, don't
Mm,
don't believe everything you read.
I agree. Question number three, the last one. I don't know why this comes up. I don't know how many cards. 20 cards here. This question comes up almost all the time. If we were in a band, what would our name be?
Our band name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if us were a band, what our name would be.
So me and you are in a band, right? Is this what the question
Yes,
is? Us two? Okay.
yes,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. The Mints Hillbillies.
Ah, nice.
People would be confused, right?
Minsk, we have no mountains, zero. We're the flattest country, I guess, on the planet. Having the two polarities, like let the mind
Yes.
explode, one polarity with the other,
The Minsk Hillbillies. We'll
combining.
sell out the first show.
Just because of an awesome name, because of the strategic name. Thank you, Joel. It was so nice to have this conversation with you. We'll be wrapping up right now, and let us know what is the best way for our listeners and those who are watching this to get in touch with you. Is it LinkedIn? Do you have any other social media? Is it DMs?
Yeah. If
We already have the website for the book. Yeah, any other
Right.
ways?
Well, the website is the place I would tell people to go, joelbeverly.com. Because at the bottom there, there's links to my LinkedIn. I'm most active on LinkedIn and Facebook probably, but I'm also kind of playing around with Instagram and Substack. So, but all of those are on my website. So if you go on there, you can connect with me there. But I would love that, right, for people around the globe to kind of start being a part of this conversation, and so it's going to start happening. So yeah, definitely connect with me. And the Rebel Company, which again is going to be the real thing to have fun around. The website will be live in the next week or two, and the website there,
Awesome.
everybody should write this down, is therebelcompany.xyz. And and here very soon it'll come live, and you can start participating with us there.
Mm-hmm. The Rebel Company XYZ. Okay,
Dot XYZ. Yeah.
XYZ. Awesome. Beautiful. Well, I'm going to leave all the links on LinkedIn in the comments, and also I'm posting this on YouTube in the description. You guys will have all the links easy to access and connect with Joel and see his website and the Rebel Company too. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Joel, for your company, for this beautiful conversation. I don't know. I honestly felt like you were doing your meditation magic on me too, because I felt in many points that I was flying away somewhere and dissolving and being in the state of presence. It was freaking awesome. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. What a beautiful show that you're creating and sharing with the world. So thanks for being in that space and enjoying it. Thank you.